Hello, I'm here with Grow, and we are going to go over a garden selection site activity with you. Before you start, you do want to try to get a tape measure and a shovel. If you do not have a tape measure, you can count out paces and figure out the distance of your paces, because you'll be using paces in the activities as well. So the first thing is you actually have to divide your class up into 6 different groups, and each group is going to take on one component of measuring and rating the garden. So those 6 things are broken up into activity sheets, and we're going to go over those so you know how to rate the different things. So the first one, I'm going to have Jacqueline help me here, is you do want to make sure that the site you are choosing has enough space. So you should have a map of the different spaces that work in your school site, or you work together with your school to figure out potential sites. So when you get to a spot that is one of the sites, you want to make sure that there's enough room for your garden. All right, so we're measuring out here 20 feet. And each site might be a little different, but if we want a 20 by 30 feet, we're gonna tape measure that out. Good, and Jackie is putting shovels in at each point. All right, and you can see the other points that we've measured out as well. This one is 32 feet across. And this just helps us make sure that we are all working from the same space. So if you look at the activity sheet, the people who have the size activity, that group, they are gonna rate with a 10. So for our site, we could rate it a 10 because we do have enough space to fit the 32 by 20. Do you mind grabbing that pen? So if this is our site 1, I'm gonna give this a 10 because we have enough space. And then me and my group could move on to site 2 and make sure there's enough space there. Marking it out though will make sure that the rest of the people doing the activities are using that same space. So the next group is looking at water. The water group is going to see how many paces does it take from the edge of your garden to get towards the nearest water source. 3, okay. So it's 3 paces, and as you can see, if it's under 10 paces, that site would get a 10. So I'm going to rate our site 1 as having a 10 because it's so close to the water site. If I had to walk more than 10 paces, I would put a 5 or a 1 if it's over 40 paces. For adults, I would do a slow or a pretty relaxed pace. For kids, if you want to take kind of big steps as you're pacing, that helps because each step would be about a meter then. So again, the water group would then go to site 2 and do the same thing. When you're looking for water spigots, they look similar to that on schools or might not have the handle, but you're looking for a place like that you'd be able to hook up a hose. All right, and as you probably know, the garden it is helpful if the water site is close. Okay, so the third group, you're gonna be looking at soil. So we're gonna come over here. You're gonna take a scoop of soil from that site where you're looking. We're cheating a little bit because we're using it right outside, but you're gonna get a scoop and then you're gonna take it and put it in your hands. If the soil balls up quite a bit but still has some crumbly, that makes a nice loam, and that's the perfect garden soil. This is what we want our garden soil to look like. If it's much more compact than that, it might look like this. And this is primarily made of clay and has sand in it as well. And this is not our ideal garden soil. So that gets a lesser rating because only 2 components are found in this. It's not quite as good of a mix. So we're gonna get that less of a rating. If it's super, super sandy or super, super clay, again, even less of a rating. And this just helps us know if we can do planting in ground or raised beds. So we're gonna rate the soil there. Next, we're looking at the sun. So group 4, you're gonna say, does this garden, is it full sun? Because that's what we would like. Full sun or even partial shade is ideal. Now, it might be a little tricky when you're looking at your site because there might be trees currently that do not have leaves on that might give shade later. So make sure you look around your site. These trees right here, since they're on the north side, they will not shade this much. But if they were on the south side of the garden, that actually would put a lot of shade into the garden space. So that would give less of a rating to your garden because, again, we do prefer mostly sun. All right, your fifth group is going to look at location and how close this is to the building that you're typically in when doing classwork. So here again come out the paces, and you are going to walk paces to see how far it is from the garden to the door of your school. Partly because if you have 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds in your school, we don't want it to be too far away, so that takes a long time to get out there. It's also harder when trying to trying to water frequently. So you can do that and do that for each of the sites. Last but not least, the landscaping. You want to look, this site that we're looking at is pretty flat. This is actually ideal for a garden, both because of accessibility in the garden, but also because the water does not run off as quickly. So flat sites are getting the high rating of 5 here, and steep hills get more of a 1 because those are harder to access and the water runs off very quickly. So after you're done with that, each group is going to tally up their ratings for each of their site and record it on your classroom sheet. So Site 1, Group 6 might say, ooh, we have 10 because, we rated at 5 because it's flat. You're gonna rate add up all Site 1's ratings, and then all of Site 2's ratings, all of Site 3, all of Site 4, and see which one is the winner. If there are some extra notes, for instance, we had a school that was right by a train track, and even though it got good ratings, they said, we wouldn't be able to hear the teacher at this site. If there are extra notes, also take that into consideration. And then have your class pick the winning location for your class. And that will help us try to figure out the best site for the garden. Thank you so much.